Spider-Man Friend or Foe isn't a game I remember because it was impressive. I remember it because it was fun in a very uncomplicated way. I played it on PC when I was about 10 years old. I didn't go into it with expectations, and I didn't really think much about what kind of Spider-Man game it was supposed to be. I just liked Spider-Man, started playing, and kept going. And that's kind of the perfect mindset for this game. Friend or Foe isn't trying to be deep, cinematic, or ambitious, it's built around one simple idea, and it commits to it completely. You fight Spider-Man's enemies, and then they fight alongside you. That premise alone was enough to keep me interested back then, and revisiting it now, I think it explains exactly why this game stuck with me at all. So today, I want to go back to Spider-Man Friend or Foe, and talk about why a simple, slightly repetitive game still earned a place in my memory. Spider-Man Friend or Foe is an action game released in 2007, developed by Next Level Games and published by Activision. While it released during the era of the Spider-Man films, it tells its own standalone story instead of directly adapting a movie. The game is structured around short linear levels, straightforward combat, and a co-op style system where Spider-Man is always accompanied by a partner. Everything about it is designed to be easy to understand and easy to play. The gameplay in Friend or Foe is very straightforward. You move through linear levels, fight groups of enemies, collect upgrades, and eventually reach a boss fight. Each location is broken into a few similar stages, followed by a larger encounter that acts as a conclusion to that area. There is no open world and no complex progression systems. The game never really asks you to stop and think about builds or strategies. You move forward, fight what's in front of you, and keep going. Combat itself is fairly basic. You punch enemies, throw them around, and occasionally use special moves. It's mostly button mashing, but it's responsive enough to stay enjoyable. What changes the feel of the gameplay is the fact that you're almost never alone. The Friend or Foe premise is the part of the game that I remember most clearly. You fight villains like Dr. Octopus or Venom, defeat them, and instead of them disappearing from the story, they become your allies. From that point on, you always have a partner fighting alongside you. As a kid, that felt genuinely exciting. I remember actually caring about what character I teamed up with, not because of stats or abilities, but because they were new, because they were familiar faces, because it felt cool to see Spider-Man casually working together with characters that were usually his enemies. Dr. Octopus in particular stands out in my memory as someone I teamed up with often, not because he was especially strong, but simply because he was Dr. Octopus. The game follows a very clear and repetitive structure. You play through a handful of levels set in the same location, fighting similar enemies and getting comfortable with the space. Then you reach a boss fight that wraps that section up and moves the story forward. If you play the game in long sessions, that repetition becomes noticeable. Levels blend together, environments repeat, and combat doesn't really evolve. But at the same time, that structure makes the game incredibly easy to pick up and put down. This was never a game I played in one long stretch. It was something I'd play for a while, stop, and then come back to later without feeling lost or disconnected. The simplicity works in its favor. The boss fights are where the game feels the most memorable. They're more distinct than regular encounters and usually introduce slightly different mechanics or pacing. Even if the levels leading up to them blur together, the bosses act as clear markers of progress. You remember reaching them, beating them, and unlocking a new character or moving to a new location. They give each section of the game a sense of closure. If I'm being completely honest, the story isn't the main reason this game stayed with me. I remember the tone being fun and light, I remember villains teaming up, but I don't remember specific plot twists or emotional moments. And that's fine. The story exists to support the gameplay and justify why characters are working together. It does its job without demanding much attention. The whole thing feels closer to a Saturday morning cartoon than a dramatic superhero narrative. It's colorful, simple, and always moving forward. The characters in Friend or Foe aren't written with deep arcs or complex personalities. Instead, they function more like playable figures you unlock and swap between. Each new character feels exciting simply because they're new and recognizable. As a kid, that was more than enough. The game never pretends these characters are anything more than that, and that honestly works in its favor. You're not meant to analyze them, you're meant to play with them. What stands out to me now is how comfortable this game felt. There was very little frustration, the difficulty was forgiving, the controls were simple, and nothing ever felt overwhelming. You could button mash, make mistakes, and still make progress. It was the kind of game you could play casually, without fully committing your attention, something you could enjoy without pressure. And that's probably why I remember it fondly. So, did Spider-Man Friend or Foe age well? Mechanically, it's basic. The combat is repetitive, the levels are linear, and there isn't much depth by modern standards. But nothing about it feels broken. The controls still work, the structure still makes sense, and the game is honest about what it is. If you approach it as a light, casual action game, it still holds up in short sessions. It's dated, but in a harmless way. Spider-Man Friend or Foe is one of those games that probably wouldn't stand out if you looked at it objectively. It didn't change anything, it didn't push boundaries, it didn't try to be more than it was. But subjectively, it mattered. It mattered because it was fun without asking much from me, because it had a simple but interesting idea, and because it let me enjoy Spider-Man in a relaxed, low-pressure way. Sometimes, that's all a game needs to do. Spider-Man Friend or Foe isn't a masterpiece. It's simple, repetitive, and very much a product of its time, but it's also honest about what it is. It's a comfortable game built around a fun premise, and that's exactly how I remember it. If you played it back then, you probably remember it the same way, and if you didn't, it's still an interesting example of how a single idea can carry an entire game. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like me to revisit more old games, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and share your own memories of this one in the comments. I've got plenty more games lined up. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.